Imagine moving into your dream home, only to discover something, or someone, is already living there. Not in the rooms you walk through every day, but just above you, in the attic. This isn't your typical ghost story. It's a real-life account from Japan, where a family faced something far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. Space parasites, unseen entities that turned their safe haven into a nightmare. Stick around, because this story will make you think twice before ignoring those strange noises in the night. Feeling an unseen presence lurking in the shadows, whispering your name when no one is around. It starts with the creaks above your head, in the attic you never use. The Takahashi family thought it was just the old house settling, until the whispers began. No words, just sounds, like someone trying to speak from far away. Then came the cold spots, moving through the house like invisible hands brushing against your skin. Mrs. Takahashi would find her son's toys arranged in circles, with no explanation. The air grew heavier, filled with a static that made your hair stand on end. One night, Mr. Takahashi heard his name, clear as day, from the attic. He went up, flashlight in hand, to find nothing. But the feeling of being watched never left. They moved out within the week, leaving behind a house that still stands empty. Some say if you listen closely at night, you can still hear the whispers calling out from the shadows. Objects moving on their own, as if controlled by an invisible force, leaving you questioning your sanity. It all started in the old, creaky house the Tanaka family moved into last spring. The attic, a space they rarely visited, became the epicenter of their nightmares. One evening, Mrs. Tanaka heard faint scratching sounds above her bedroom. Dismissing it as rats, she ignored it until the next morning when she found her favorite vase, always kept on the mantel, shattered on the floor. No one had been near it. Days passed, and the occurrences grew bolder. Chairs slid across the kitchen floor untouched. The family dog refused to go near the attic stairs, whimpering and backing away as if sensing something they couldn't see. Mr. Tanaka, a skeptic, set up a camera, determined to debunk the phenomena. What it captured was chilling, a shadowy figure, barely perceptible, moving objects with an unnatural precision. The family's denial turned to dread as they realized they weren't alone. The attic, they feared, was home to something not of this world. Their attempts to cleanse the house only intensified the activity, culminating in a night where every door in the house slammed shut simultaneously, trapping them in darkness. When morning came, the attic door stood wide open, a silent invitation to the unknown. They moved out the next day, leaving behind the mystery of what lurked in the shadows of their attic, a question that haunts them to this day. Sudden drops in temperature, making your breath visible, signaling a ghostly visitor. It was a typical evening in the small, cramped house in rural Japan. The family had just finished dinner, the warmth of the meal still lingering in the air. But then, without warning, the air turned icy. The mother, wiping dishes in the kitchen, saw her breath fog up in front of her. A chill ran down her spine, not just from the cold, but from the feeling of being watched. She called out to her husband, her voice shaky. He came running, only to stop dead in his tracks when he saw the same thing. Their breaths, visible in the suddenly frigid air. The attic above them, usually silent, creaked ominously. They looked at each other, fear in their eyes. The husband grabbed a flashlight, his hands trembling as he approached the ladder to the attic. The wife clung to his arm, begging him not to go. But curiosity and fear drove him forward. As he climbed, the temperature dropped even more. The flashlight flickered. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the cold was gone. The attic was silent. But the feeling of being watched remained. They never found what caused the cold. But they knew, something had been there. And it might still be. Hearing footsteps behind you, but when you turn around, there's no one there. That's how it started for the Tanaka family in their quiet, two-story home nestled in the suburbs of Kyoto. It was late autumn, the kind of season where the wind carried whispers and the shadows seemed just a bit longer. Mrs. Tanaka was the first to notice it, soft, deliberate steps pacing the attic above the master bedroom, always just after midnight. At first, she dismissed it as the house settling, the old wood creaking under the weight of time. But then the footsteps grew louder, more insistent, as if something was trying to make its presence known. Mr. Tanaka, a skeptic by nature, checked the attic himself, flashlight in hand, only to find nothing but dust and silence. Yet, that night, as he lay in bed, the footsteps returned, this time accompanied by a faint, rhythmic scratching against the attic floor. The family tried to ignore it, to rationalize it away, but the sounds persisted, growing more frequent, more aggressive. Then came the cold spots, areas in the house where the temperature would plummet without warning, leaving a chill that seeped into the bones. The Tanaka's daughter, Emi, claimed to see shadows moving in the corners of her room, shapes that dissolved when she looked directly at them. Sleep became a luxury, as the family found themselves waking at odd hours, hearts pounding, convinced they were not alone. They consulted priests, psychics, even a local university's paranormal research team, but no explanation could account for the phenomena. The final straw came when Mr. Tanaka, in a fit of frustration, tore open the attic sealed door, only to be met with an overwhelming sense of dread, a feeling of being watched by something unseen, something other. The family moved out shortly after, leaving behind their home and the unanswered questions that haunted its walls. To this day, the house stands empty, a silent witness to the Tanaka's ordeal, and the footsteps in the attic continue, waiting for the next family to hear them. Imagine this: you're lying in bed, the dead of night, wrapped in the comfort of your blankets. Suddenly, you feel a tug. Then another. Before you can react, your blankets are yanked off you with a force that's unmistakably not natural. You're left there, exposed, the cold air biting at your skin, but it's not just the temperature that chills you, it's the realization that you're not alone. This wasn't a draft, wasn't your imagination. Something in the attic, something unseen, is making its presence known. The family had dismissed the odd noises as the house settling, the occasional cold spot as poor insulation. But now, as you lie there, frozen in fear, you can hear it, the faintest scratching above you, moving towards the attic door. Your heart pounds, your breath comes in short gasps. Do you scream? Do you run? Or do you lie still, hoping whatever it is loses interest? The choice is yours, but one thing's certain: the attic is no longer just storage space. It's a gateway, and whatever came through doesn't plan on leaving quietly. Seeing figures out of the corner of your eye that disappear when you look directly at them. That's how it started for the Tanaka family, in their quiet, suburban home in Japan. The attic, a place they rarely visited, became the source of their nightmares. It was small, cramped, and always colder than the rest of the house. Mrs. Tanaka was the first to notice something was off. She'd be doing the dishes, and out of the corner of her eye she'd see a shadowy figure standing in the doorway. But when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Just an empty space where the figure had been. Then Mr. Tanaka started hearing whispers late at night, soft murmurs that seemed to come from the attic. He'd climb the stairs, heart pounding, only to find the room silent and still. Their daughter, Aiko, refused to go near the attic door, saying it felt like something was watching her from the other side. The family tried to rationalize it: drafts, the house settling, overactive imaginations. But the occurrences grew more frequent, more intense. One night, they all saw it, a figure, tall and indistinct, standing at the top of the attic stairs. It didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there, watching. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. They moved out soon after, leaving behind the house and whatever lived in the attic. To this day, they refuse to talk about what happened there. But sometimes, in the quiet of the night, they'll catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of their eye, and for a moment, they're back in that house, with the thing in the attic watching them. Dreams of being watched or followed that feel so real, you wake up screaming. Imagine this: it's the middle of the night in a quiet, old house in rural Japan. The air is thick, almost suffocating, as if something unseen is pressing down on you. The protagonist, a young mother named Aiko, jolts awake from a nightmare where shadowy figures whispered her name from the corners of her room. But here's the thing: when she opens her eyes, the whispering doesn't stop. It's coming from the attic, a place the family rarely visits, filled with generations of forgotten memories. Aiko's heart races as she debates whether to investigate or pretend she heard nothing. The rational part of her mind screams to ignore it, but the fear, the undeniable feeling of being watched, pulls her towards the attic door. Each step up the creaky stairs feels like walking towards her doom. Then, just as she reaches the door, a cold breath grazes her neck and the whispering stops. Silence. The kind of silence that's louder than any noise. Aiko turns, expecting to see something, anything, but there's nothing there. Or is there? The next morning, she finds strange, pulsating marks on her skin, as if something had been feeding on her in the night. The doctors can't explain it. The family starts hearing scratches from the attic, even during the day. And Aiko? She can't shake the feeling that whatever is in the attic isn't just watching, it's waiting. A feeling of dread so overwhelming it paralyzes you, as if something evil is feeding off your fear. Imagine this: it's late at night in a quiet suburban home in Japan. The family has been hearing strange, scratching sounds coming from the attic for weeks. At first, they brushed it off as rats or the house settling. But then, the sounds grew louder, more persistent, as if something was trying to communicate. The father, a skeptic, decided to investigate. Armed with nothing but a flashlight, he climbed the creaky stairs to the attic. The air was thick, oppressive, like it was alive. His flashlight flickered, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. Then, he saw them, tiny, glowing orbs floating in the darkness, pulsating as if feeding off his growing terror. His breath caught in his throat, his body frozen in fear. The orbs moved closer, and for a moment, he felt something, cold, invasive, brush against his skin. He stumbled back, falling down the stairs in his rush to escape. The family moved out the next day, leaving everything behind. To this day, no one knows what was in that attic. But sometimes, late at night, the new owners report hearing scratching sounds, and a feeling of being watched from above.